Welcome back to Flashpoint. Another bump in the road for the North Carolina primary this week. The General Assembly passed a bill to move the primary from May 17th to now June 7th. Republicans say the delay will allow more time for redistricting lawsuits to settle in court, but the governor, not so sure, expressed some concern with the bill. This comes a week after a panel of North Carolina judges ruled that recently drawn congressional maps can stand. Some groups say the Republican maps were not drawn fairly and give Republicans a chance to increase their political power. The state Supreme Court likely with the final say. Joining us now, Dr. Michael Bitzer, professor of politics at Catawba College. Also, he actually wrote the book on this, literally the author of the book, Redistricting and Gerrymandering in North Carolina. Also, at this rate, going to become like a part-time host of Flashpoint. He appears so often. Professor, thanks as always for coming on. We appreciate it.
Always my pleasure.
So we have this ruling from the three judges this past week, and sort of the way I read it, my gist was not that they defended this, not that they liked it, not that they thought this is fair, not that they think that this is a good idea, not that they think this is democracy at its best, but they said, hey, this is legal, hey, this is partisan, and hey, this is redistricting in North Carolina. Is that fair?
Very much so. I mean, I think the gist is, again, redistricting is the most partisan, most political activity in American politics nowadays. And the court was interesting. They found through their judicial findings of intentional pro-Republican partisan redistricting. All 14 congressional districts, they said they found intentional pro-Republican partisan redistricting. In 23 state Senate districts, including Mecklenburg, and 53 House districts, including in Mecklenburg, there was intentional pro-Republican partisan redistricting. So the findings were clear. What the court said was there is no constitutional or legal remedy that they could utilize to say these are unconstitutional partisan gerrymandering. So we've got the findings of clear partisan redistricting, but the law, the Constitution of the state does not afford any remedy other than through the legislature.
Folks at home might be watching this and they're scratching their head thinking, wait, huh? How does that work? Basically what you're saying is, that, as you've always said every time you come on the show, is this is a partisan activity and it's going to stay that way. And a court is limited what it can do about it.
Correct. And we oftentimes talk about this idea of judicial activism, that judges are making up the law when the legislature should be making up the law. What this opinion rendered on a number of areas, things like the free elections clause, things like equal protection, freedom of speech. The court held that there was no legal standard by which they could pronounce these maps as unconstitutional because those provisions don't allow the courts to make those kinds of pronouncements based in their historical reading of the Constitution of North Carolina.
I assume this finally ends up in front of the state Supreme Court.
It does end up before the state Supreme Court. The appeals have been made, and I would suspect that they would push this as an expedited review and potential decision.
So what I'm hearing you say is that all of this could change again at some point in the next few weeks or months.
We'll just have to wait to see what the state Supreme Court, the state's highest court, says about this decision and about the maps ultimately.
On a separate issue entirely, but I'm going to get you here since you're our expert. Voting rights legislation in D.C. Is there any practical way forward if you have senators like Manchin and Sinema saying, hey, I'm not willing to do away with the filibuster?
Not likely, because you would need all 50 Democrats plus the vice president to basically make a rules change in the U.S. Senate. If two of them are not conducive to doing so, then the move to change the rules is basically dead in the water.
All right. Professor of Politics up at Catawba College, Michael Bitzer. Professor, thank you as always. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, more Flashpoint after this.